So this woman, by the way, Olivia, she was stopped by the airline, Southwest Airline, because she was flying with her biracial daughter, and they thought she might be trafficking her daughter.
My first immediate thought was why did they do that? But also so many things happen in the airport where people get stopped all the time, and you hear the craziest stories. They're like, oh, just because I look a certain way. And every time I hear that, it's really annoying to me, because it's just because they look that way. Was she treating her daughter badly? What else were that? What other factors was it that they thought that she was trafficking her daughter just because they don't look the same? I think that's ridiculous.
I think that God forbid it was actual human trafficking, but I feel like there has to be a basis for stopping people, and then there has to be a certain level of courtesy towards them after you stop them and realize that you've made a mistake. It really depends on the way they went about it. If it was on a basis of it's a white woman with a mixed child, there's obviously something wrong with that, and I feel like you have to have more evidence to stop someone if you're gonna suspect that they are human trafficking.
I mean, I agree with what Jared said. I feel like there would be behavioral indications as to whether that would cause suspicion.
There should be anyway. Right?
Yeah, that would make the flight crew think that, hey, maybe this person is trafficking this child. But going solely based off the difference in race is not a great thing.
It's also kind of weird that the flight attendant was the one to point out, hey, there might be human trafficking, because who are they to say, or who are they to realize or pick up on what is human trafficking and what isn't? They're not informed by any means.
So when you put a story up with these three quotes, it's about race, and it's only about race. And the only conclusion you can get to is that there's racism, and the flight attendant was racist. The good thing about this, though, is every single flight attendant in the United States, every single one, every airline employee knows this story because it's on every platform everywhere. And so people are going to be more racially aware, because there is a thing that, if you don't engage in a mixed race world, if you don't engage with mixed race people, if you live in all, I'm not going to say all black, because if you're black or if you're Asian or if you're Hispanic, you live in a mixed race world, because you have people in your reality who are mixed race. Most white people do as well, but if you're not embedded in it, then you can overlook that with a certain bias. No, here's the question. How often do air stewardesses, airline employees get it wrong? How often are they pulling aside the white families and black families and Asian families and whatever? How often are they getting it wrong? Surely this isn't the only time they've gotten it wrong. So how often do they get it wrong? Check your narrow vision. Maybe you're overlooking some things. Maybe you could have seen. How often are you thinking about this divisiveness that we're in?
It's actually interesting. We had a conversation similar to the World in Conversation, but I feel like I take a lot of these headlines with a grain of salt. You read them and then you go, okay, you kind of have to infer your own questions about first off, why it was written. If it was written to inform you, or written so you were upset that the flight attendant might be a racist. You just have to take everything you read with a grain of salt.
I think a lot of times we might get caught up in the clickbait of it.
Yeah.
And a lot of media, or even just journalists, anybody that is publishing anything either online or for news or something, they're considered successful when they get a lot of reads or a lot of views or a lot of anything. So they're going to make something that looks controversial, or their headline is something that they know people are going to click on.
Latasha Clemens is the first black woman firefighter in the state of Florida. Started as a firefighter in this town of Boynton, I think it's called, okay? First black woman firefighter. So, Latasha retires 2 years ago as deputy chief of that fire department, okay? So Latasha's been around a long time. Latasha works her way through. They decide in the city, they're going to put a mural up and they're going to honor 3 women. And there's the photo at the bottom. So there were 3 women. One was like an EMS person, and one was somebody else, and one was, I think, a police officer, and one was Latasha. Latasha is the only black person in that photo, bottom right hand, okay? They paint the mural. They're going to do a mural. And they paint Latasha as white. And Latasha turns around and sues the city for $100,000 for defamation of character. Okay? $100,000. They painted her as white. She sues the city. Okay? The township city. I think it's a city in Florida for $100,000 for defamation of character. Okay? Because they painted her white. I mean, it's pretty terrible painting. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like, yeah.
The one in the top right is the mural.
The one in the top right is I think a version of the mural.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like not. Yeah, it's exactly.
It doesn't look. Yeah,
It's terrible.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
No, it's terrible, right?
I don't know. I'm just thinking in terms of me, I'd be upset too, if I was supposed to be acknowledged for something and I was painted as something I'm not, regardless of what that is.
Okay, so you wouldn't sue, but you would. What do you think?
Well, first, the murals, well, if that's it on the top right, it's god awful. Yeah. But also, I just trying to look at it from her perspective. It just seems kind of disrespectful that she was the first black female firefighter in Florida. And
No, but that's years ago. The mural is just a recent thing, right? This is like they're honoring her for all of that service.
Well, for all that service, they can't, not that they can't do it right, but they can't. But because it just seems disrespectful that they wouldn't depict her as who she was, and that they
Okay.
Right.
Would you sue if they depicted you as Jared, dude?
What's wrong with? There's nothing wrong with him.
If they depicted you as Jared, would you sue?
I would. I think that's more dependent upon the personality
Yeah.
of the person. I understand why she would sue, because being a black woman, that's a very historically discriminated minority.
Yeah.
So I understand why she'd be pissed and why she'd want to be depicted as who she is rather than something she's not.
Yeah.
So would I sue if I was in her position? Probably. And I'd get money off it too.
I think, if you ask the question to me, if I was depicted as, or if I had a mural and I had some great accomplishment, but my skin was painted black, I think if I was to sue, it wouldn't be, come across well. It would definitely, and I wouldn't sue, that's the thing. I don't think that this would be something to sue over, because I don't know, unless, she knows exactly, who painted it and it was, an attack on her race, then, yeah, shoot, go sue, for sure. I think, because I don't know all the, gory details of it all, that, I wouldn't sue, but I would definitely want it changed, because it's not an accurate representation of who you are. But I think that, again, if you asked me the question, if you were painted as a black woman, do you,
a black guy.
Right, exactly. A lot of people would be like, she doesn't have the right to sue.
Yeah,
so I think that, the kind of back and forth of it is, but I just wouldn't sue.
They would see it as petty.
Yeah.
Jared.
Or racist, because, oh, God forbid, right, but she doesn't want to be.
Oh, right, exactly.
Right.
If you did, they'd see you as racist, because, what's wrong with being a black person?
Right, and there's nothing wrong. And I don't think she's saying it as oh, I don't want to be white, there's something wrong with being white. I don't think that that's the way to look at it.
No, that's not what she's saying.
Right.
I was just thinking about it longer. I understand more why she would sue, just because there is a historically tendency to whitewash history.
Yeah.
And I can totally understand why she'd be upset, feeling like that was happening to her. And part of why she's being honored is because she's black, but that's not being acknowledged in her mural. So,
Okay.
I don't know. I think now I take back my answer. I would sue too.
All right. Well, listen.